everybody, all of you who are live with us now. If you are here, drop your name in the chat where you're watching from. We're glad that you're here, but welcome. Today, we are chatting, we're talking with none other than Daniela Furtado from Findable Digital Marketing. And we're talking about how to rank your blog on Google #1 page, on Google's first page. Daniela, say what's up to everybody. Welcome, welcome. For those of you who may not know, Danielle and I are super good friends, professionally, personally. Like, oh, can you hear me, Daniela? You're cutting out. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Hopefully, you catch up. Danielle and I were lucky enough to speak at the Interior Design Show together. We did a talk about Google SEO and social media, and I think it went well. Daniela, what do you think?
It went really well. We got really good feedback afterwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we turned into micro celebrities for the first day.
Yeah. No, it was,
We had lots of fun.
I don't know about you, but like I loved it. I loved teaching. I loved being on stage. It was a lot of work prepping for it, but it was very fulfilling in the end.
Yeah, I think so too. Even for me, doing these lives every single week, it's really helped hone in some of my speaking and sharing thoughts and ideas. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. Today, we're going to be talking about um, SEO for blogs. And I know so many people understand that blogs are still very powerful tools in communicating thought and authority in a subject, but not many people understand necessarily how do I get this to be something that actually gets traction and awareness and all that kind of stuff? How do I get the type of reach that I would hope for it? Anyone who's written a blog before understands that it takes a lot of work and time. This is why I hire copywriters to help me write blogs because I've done this before, and it takes a lot of your own precious time to write something, and you do all the work, you do the revisions, you do what you think is best, you press the publish button, and then you put it out to the world, and not as many people see it as you hoped, or no one sees it. Anyone. And it's not necessarily that the content was bad, but maybe you didn't position yourself to receive the traffic that maybe it deserved by doing some simple things. Daniela, you help a lot of people with SEO specifically. What's like the overall #1 thing that people completely miss in terms of understanding how SEO works?
A lot of people think that I am a Google whisperer. I stuff mumbo jumbo in the back end of their website. I put something in the code.
Yeah.
I maybe send a Google ask, pretty please put this client on the first page. So I think a lot of people think it's a lot more secretive or technical than it really is. Would you like me to get
That's really
into
good.
how it actually works?
Yeah, that'd be great. Actually, demystify it for us.
Yes. So for depending, I don't know what knowledge people have coming into this. So I'll start with the search engine optimization is the practice of optimizing a profile, website, whatever account you have on whatever search engine to position yourself high up on the search results. So a search engine is literally any platform that has a search bar. So it could typically we're talking about Google, Yahoo, Bing, but also Pinterest, social media platforms, Spotify. These all these platforms have a search bar in them, and so they have a so when you search something, the results are not random. It's there because there's an algorithm calculating and create the most relevant result for that specific search. So SEO, search engine optimization, is understanding the algorithm behind the search engine and then tailoring your website or profile, if it were type on social media, to fit that search engine algorithm. When we talk about Google specifically, there are more than 200 rankings. Like Google takes in 200 factors into consideration when figuring out if your website or my website is going to be on the first page or the 100th page for a specific. A lot of those factors we know about because Google has told us, or we as an industry have done experiments and share them that we don't know about. But for the most part, we can categorize those 200 ranking factors into five groups: technical, content, local, and I'd say like the most recent, I think about 2 years recent, is website design and user experience. Different as you word these five categories slightly different, say off page and on page, but it's
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Danielle. I think I muted you by accident.
oh, did you really?
Yeah, that was just for a quick second at the end there. My
Oh,
bad,
okay,
guys.
okay.
Oh, but okay. So people, you were talking about the five different ways SEO works altogether. I think that's a big misconception people have. Is like, oh, I just need you to, like you said, do the code stuff on the back end. Maybe they're talking about
Mm,
technical or on page SEO or anything like that. But they don't understand that the content has to be written in a certain way for Google to understand what it is you're trying to do. And I always try to
mm,
explain to people who don't understand SEO by saying Google is just trying to solve the answer. They have millions and millions of searches every single second of every single day, and the algorithm's job is to find the most relevant information to answer the query, to answer what someone types into that bar. So we're not at a place yet where Google can just know your intentions. That might be scary to
mhm,
think about, but there are some things that you can do inside of your content when you are, if you're going that route with your SEO, to help Google identify what exactly are you talking about and why this would be relevant to XYZ's search query. Because if they're searching for, let's say for my business, digital marketing construction, or construction digital marketing, um, they want to find information on the entire internet, whatever they've crawled, that will answer that as fast as possible and accurately as possible. And that's where you can kind of get some type of authority in a specific space. So let's start with the very basic, because I know there's so many facets of SEO. I want to focus on like people who write content, people who publish content
mhm.
for the internet. How does this how is it going to help them by making sure that they have the right topics to use when they're going about and trying to figure out what should I be talking about for my business, or how can I relate something to what someone's actually looking for.
Great question. So the content is one piece of the pie, right? I talked
Hmm.
categories, and content is one big chunk. Um, so I like to think of it when people ask me what should I write about. I like to think of it as a Venn diagram. So you have your business is one circle, and your needs, your customers, what they need, and then you have an algorithm as another, and what people are searching for on that platform. And so you're trying to find where the two circles collide. That bridge is where you create your content. So what are questions that people are asking about your service or product? Um, so what are those questions that people are asking for? If they are asking themselves those questions, or their friends, they're probably Googling it as well. So I would start there, understanding the customer journey. What questions, doubts, concerns do they have at different stages of the journey, and brain that way. Then you can use tools to like figure out the specific are using on Google. This is called keyword research. And something I would like to clarify is you may find that some don't work really well on Google. Maybe there's like a clear opportunity to rank. Not a lot of people have written about it. And then there might be other makes sense for your business. Like these are questions that people are asking, but maybe Google isn't the best channel to
Mm.
promote that content. Maybe it's not that's searchable. Maybe it's very niche, or maybe it's just too competitive to rank on Google. And does you content is just you should adjust your expectations. Maybe you promote it on an email newsletter. Maybe you write it for a publication that has a bigger audience than you. So, um, yeah, I would say start with understanding your customers. What are they asking? What do they want to know about your product or service? Brainstorm that way and figure which of those ideas would work best for Google or another platform, another channel.
That's really good advice because some people don't. Um, some people are not going for Google for those answers. A great way to do like what we would call a keyword research is forums. You know, I've just recently joined
Mm,
the digital marketing forum on Reddit and also WordPress because we do a lot of WordPress development, and you can see what people are asking and maybe keep like a Google spreadsheet of some really good questions people are struggling with, or if your industry is something specific, like like we both work with interior designers, architects, and builders. um, you can start to go into different forums and find where people are having those conversations and what they're struggling with in that specific industry. A very simple way to do like a low grade level of doing some research on this as well is whatever you have your ideas, just write them in to Google and press search, and then halfway down, if you scroll down, you'll see related search things that people have searched for. That means Google is seeing people type those things in, and they're categorizing them together. So that means a lot of people are searching for this. Now, it doesn't mean that you can rank for it easily. They don't show you all those types of metrics, but they do show you. Also, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, it shows you more related search terms that are related to what you searched initially. That's a very easy win to get someone to, because if you're first of all writing something for someone to if you're writing something for someone to benefit from, the best thing to do is to like do a little bit of research to see where the intersect is, like what Daniela was talking about with the Venn diagram. And then you want to capture their attention, and I've had to learn this the hard way. It's not necessarily how good or bad your blog or article or case study is, but what you name it, is it clear? Does it say what the solution or what the person is going to get out of it? So what ideas or tips could you give, Daniela, for people who are using like the headline or the H1 tag inside of their blog post or a case study? How important is it to have a very clear and hook for someone who's scanning for answers on Google?
yeah, this is a great question. So, I can talk about headings in general. So once
Hmm.
you figure out what keyword you are going to, okay, so you brainstorm some ideas, you figured out what your customers are looking for, you've been a fly on the wall in some forums or clubhouse room, musical groups, meetups, whatever it may be. You have like a list of content, of articles that you want to write, keywords that you can target it for each article. It may be one keyword, it may be a group of keywords, like five, maybe one big one and four small ones.
Hmm.
I would start with literally creating an outline of how you're going to structure the blog post. And that outline will help you figure out what the headings will be, not just the H1, the title, but also the sub headings, right? So all the H2s and the H3s in the article. And then you can start to think about, okay, where can I place some keywords? The keywords don't have to be in all the headings. It should ideally be in the H1, the big title, and some of the H2s and H3s. So you can map it out. You can figure out the headings, but also make it clear, right? From the outline alone, from just the headings, I should be able to understand what the article is about and what you're going. I should be able to just scan to the part that's maybe just like scan down to the part that's most relevant to me. Um, so that's what I would recommend is like creating an outline, structuring it, figuring out where the keywords are going to be.
That's good.
Are these? You can also find opportunities to make headings a lot more catchy and fun, and it doesn't have to be optimized.
Yeah, I was reading somewhere and they were talking about the trend of how longer posts are doing better, longer posts that are
Yeah.
scannable. So having um, a quick link that jumps down to the section so people can find the answer they're looking for immediately, or that the headings are so clear that if someone were to scan through this longer blog post or article, they can kind of see the gist of everything and then maybe spend more time and dive into the parts that matter most to them. But making it scannable, which is so 2022 because everything is so fast. People's attention span are so fast. And even on a phone, let's say you have 2200 or 2500 word article, I'm just going to scan and swipe and see what the headings are and see the gist of it probably first before I go back and read it. Or I'll jump down to a section that is really pertinent to what I'm doing. So I think those are super huge, and we're talking about the words, the outlines of these articles. What about the auxiliary things to the articles? What about links and images, Daniela? How can people leverage the other things that they're adding to these articles to make them more dynamic and enjoyable to read? What should people be considering or doing when they're doing that?
Yeah. So images, metadata, and internal links would be the other auxiliary SEO factors. Compress your images before you upload them. Photoshop is ideal. I think Photoshop is the best image compressor, but you can use free tools as well. Unless the image is huge, and then you can speak to this part as a website designer, but unless it's going to be
Mhm.
huge and taking up the whole screen, it doesn't have to be more than 1 megabyte. And
Exactly.
so compress the images, name them carefully. So literally rename the file. If the keyword, you can use them. This is a gray area. It's not, a lot of people like to put keywords in the alt tag in the file name of the image, and they think that's what SEO is. It's a cherry on the cake. It's not going to, your article is not strong to begin with. If you're not using keywords throughout the article, or your technical SEO is bad, then image SEO is not going to save you. Renaming the file weird. And depending
Right.
what the, if you're making, I think I would really recommend it if it's original images, like an infographic, a
Hmm.
chart, a table, something like that, that I would, say definitely use keywords in the image file so that your the p this content that it's searchable. But if it's just a stock image, I wouldn't care. Definitely compress it so that it doesn't slow down the page. That's images.
Right.
Definitely have internal links, or make it really really easy for Google's bots or crawlers to crawl your site, to go from one page to the other, to see every time you put up new content. If you link, then Google will recognize it a lot faster, index it, and put it higher up on on the SERP, on the search engine results page. So have internal links. If you are selling like a product, for example,
Mm.
service even, but definitely if you're selling a product, internal links can be great. Promote the product that is relevant to that post. And I don't think just an anchor text, like just text alone, is enough. I think it's going to be a visual link. So depending how your website is designed, like if you have a digital product, then have like, if it's like a PDF, have like a little banner with a mock-up of the PDF in it, and
Right.
like create a button out of it and click. This is a good way for conversion, right? If you have an e-commerce, you can have like, I don't know what they're called, like boxes that feature the product on the blog post.
Oh, I got
If
you.
it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
service, if it's a service, have a call to action in the end. Internal links both for SEO and for conversion rates if you're a business. Then lastly, I would say metadata. So metadata, this is changing a little bit. Google attention to the meta titles that people manually write. It's using whatever your H1
Interesting.
is by default. So again, it's one of those things where people like just like image uh, alt tags, people think meta titles and meta descriptions are like the end all of the be all end all of SEO, and it's not the fundamentals. It's just a cherry on the cake. So if you have the time, write a meta title, make it as identical as possible to your age, and write a meta description as well. And so for those that don't know, metadata is like the text that people see on Google when they see your website and click on to the web page. And that's it.
Love it. No, that's really good. You mentioned internal links. What about external links? Because I know sometimes people get confused about those two things. What can you do to help build your, maybe even a link building strategy? We could talk about that afterwards. But yeah, how can you use external links to leverage your ranking on SEO?
Yeah. So your use of external links doesn't play a big SEO, and actually having way too many external links can hurt your SEO because it kind of looks spammy. So use it with, you know, with sense, if I can say that. I know common sense is not common action, but like if it makes sense to link to another site, especially if you are like if it's list of resources, sources, citations, definitely link to sites wherever it's relevant and it makes sense. It flows with the article using external. But it doesn't really add much to your SEO unless it's extreme cases. Receiving a link though, this is backlinking. This does great things for
Right.
your SEO. So goes back to what I said about the 5 categories, the ranking factors. Backlinks is a big term. So I mean, I won't get into the nitty gritty, but backlinks is the thing about Google's algorithm that made it really excel. Started when Google's first started, there were tons of other search engines, but none of them were as relevant. They didn't give as accurate and relevant results as like Google. Great results was because they used something called backlinks in their algorithm and looked at what links, what websites are pointing to your website. So you can write all this content about how great, I don't know, let's say you sell cat food. You can say that you sell the best cat food in Toronto, and you can use this keyword all over your site. You can have content all about it. But if nobody else on the internet is saying that your cat food is the best in Toronto, then Google isn't going to pay much attention to it. When Business Review and Toronto Star and Pet World and all these like big websites start mentioning your website, linking to your website, when they add external links to your site, in other words, when they're giving you backlinks, it's like traffic coming in from the back door, then that adds a lot of credibility and help posture.
Yeah, that's really cool. I just recorded a podcast last night with two entrepreneurs, and they just started a business in November, and it's blowing up. And they said we got really good traction early on because some prominent blogs were featuring us, like Toronto Life and Blog.to, and Boss Girl and stuff like that. So that really does lend a lot of authority or lend a lot of credibility to your website and to your article or whatever you're writing about, because people that have a higher ranking are now saying, hey, check this website out. Because again, if we go back to the original premise, Google only wants to give the best answers to the people who are searching these types of things. So, you know, there are ways for you guys to leverage that, even in dealing with like feature snippets. Like when you search on Google, this is something that's new in the last couple of years. You'll see on a Google homepage or a search page, when you load up a query, a question, something that you type into Google, it's not just links and descriptions anymore. Now you're able to see FAQs, related searches. You're able to see snippets of information, whether it's related to a news article or a video. So there's different ways that you can now leverage other content, or even within your content, so that Google understands. That's like the clearest way for Google to answer a question. Like if you were to write, how do you write a blog post? Google might use a feature snippet that shows the best answer on there, which kind of will show exactly a little picture or a snippet or an image from your blog post, and maybe a few of the other headings that you have in that article. Have you seen people leveraging this more now, Daniela, in like using, um, understanding what feature snippets are and then like using them to their benefits?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, well, for our clients, we do all their SEO and content creation. So we do it for them. That's why they do it. Like if you see a client, it's not because they asked us to, it's because we're like, you need this. Uh,
Yeah.
Time to time, I work with publishers, so like content creators, influencers, magazines, online magazines, and they get it and they do it and they're really really on it. So yeah, it's I think it goes back to ability, like structuring information a
Mhm.
certain way, like a way in how we actually process information. Like it helps. It
Yeah, this is really good. We have a few minutes left. I wanted to just reiterate, we're talking about a lot of technical things, things that are like, okay, we're talking about SERP pages and SEO and, different feature snippets and backlinking. And
acronyms and
sometimes,
weird terms.
yes, yeah, and I want to make sure people don't get too discouraged when they're writing. Ultimately, Daniela touched on a little bit of it, and this is something we talked about in our talk at IDF. I love this, is understanding your buyer persona. At the end of the day, you're writing for humans, but you want to be cognitive of the fact that there is a game at play, where the best answers, the people that provide the best results, usually have the best SEO, or they are more intentional with their SEO. So Google is able to read it. But if you were to go to the actual content itself, they write for humans. They write in a way that is appealing for people to read. And that's where we were talking about that scannability, making sure it's visually appealing, having all of your titles read clearly so people can kind of understand that. And that's where understanding who is the audience for what you're producing, um, is going to be very instrumental. Understanding your buyer persona, what their motives are, what their challenges are, their interests of mind. Those are important things, right? So you want to choose topics that will resonate with your potential customer and address their pain point. Daniela, am I missing anything? What else are people really need to know about ranking on Google, or how Google really can help them when they're producing content?
Maybe the last thing I'll say, kind of as a maybe checklist, because a lot of people ask me, is a lot of people use a keyword in the blog post. Sum it up. Can I go into it? Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so a checklist that I use, because sometimes the plugins, the tools like Yoast and WordPress are not always reliable. Um,
Hmm.
so whatever your keyword is, you want to use it high up on the article as much as possible, or on the page, I should say, because the higher up on the page, like physically, the more importance Google gives it. So you want to have it in the URL, in the H1, in the first 100 words of the article. So if you have
Good.
like a little subtitle, like you know how magazines kind of have like a on a byline. It's like that,
I know
like
it's yeah,
the of the
I know.
article. If you have
I
something like
it's
that, that
I'm
makes it
losing it.
easy. It's okay, it's okay. The first 100 words, and then you want to sprinkle it throughout the article in the headings paragraph. So I like to use the 1% rule of thumb. So if the article is 1,000 words long, then at 1% of that, those words should be the keywords, meaning like up to 10. And that's it.
Got it. That's awesome. Um, okay, we want to be mindful of everyone's time. It is 1:30 on the dot. Daniela, thank you so much. Where can people find you if they want to find you online and read more about what you do as an expert in SEO?
Best place to find us is on our website. You can Google us at Findable Digital Marketing, or just go to the website findableigitalmarketing.com. Social media accounts, but we're not active on them. I might delete them because
You're too busy solving people's real problems.
I wish I could say that. But yeah, Google is the best
Okay.
place. Website.
I love it. Go follow Daniela. She's amazing. You'll learn a lot from being around her. This has been a great chat, guys. We'll see you guys next month. We'll post this on YouTube and LinkedIn and other places shortly after. So if you missed it, I'm sorry, but also you're not forgotten. Peace out, guys. Have a good one.